Hi everyone, welcome to this video tutorial. Today we're going to have a look at an introduction to parameters. Hopefully you've already copied the starter code into your IDE, you've opened the worksheet and you're going through it, but you're having problems. So you've decided to come down to the helper video, and that's what this is. I've already created a new project and this is the starter code. When I run it, I get an error. Okay. KBin cannot be resolved, so I've got to go and figure that out. It looks like this is a scanner. KBin is a scanner variable helping me communicate with the keyboard. I haven't imported the scanner, so that's a big problem. Java.util. I'm just going to do it the quick way. I'm going to do .star. That just imports all of the libraries, including scanner. And of course I need to set up my scanner. Now, if multiple functions are using a scanner, I could create a static global variable and initialize it to be a new scanner variable, like this. So let's just do it this way. Okay, let's just give myself a bit more room here. Okay, so we've set up a global scanner variable, and now hopefully we can start to use it, and that error has disappeared. So let's just run it again, see if that works. Yay! Enter your character's name, Jack. Whoa! What happened? Whoa! Okay! All right! So 5 times, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Jack attacks a goblin. And the goblin won, it's a draw, it's 1-1, the goblin won again, that's 2-1, 3-1, Jack lost 3-1 in those 5 encounters. Now what the worksheet is suggesting is that in the role attack function definition, when we call role attack, wouldn't it be fun if we could give this function a bit of flexibility? Wouldn't it be good if we could give the function some data and then let the function, when it's called, process that data? Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to send this function an integer, and the role attack function is going to grab that integer into its own kind of temporary variable. I'm just going to call it x for now. So when we call the function, we send it some data. The function's variable here grabs that data, and then we can use that data inside the function. So now we're creating a random number between 1 and whatever that data is. Okay? And we're assigning that to the attack, which is a global variable. There it is. Okay. So now instead of always having 1 to 6 as our random attack strength, we're now kind of messing around with that idea. And let's do the same with role defense. Let's say when we're defending, maybe we can cheat a little bit and make sure that the goblin is never as strong as Jack. That's a bit nasty, isn't it? But again, we're sending an integer to role defense function. So role defense is going to grab that integer into its own little variable. Notice you can call it x if you want. These two functions are not connected. They can't really see each other, so that's fine. And then we can use that data in the function definition. Now, of course, x isn't a very meaningful variable name, so let's call this one A for attack, and I'm going to call this one D for defense. Now, when we call this function, the function wakes up, it sees the data, and it stores the data in its variable, and then it does its magic, and then we return to the main program, and that's finished. So we move on to the next line of code. So this function call kind of disappears, right? When it's done its work, it disappears. And so does that variable. That disappears. So it's not really a local variable, and it's not really a global variable. This is known as a parameter. Okay? Now the worksheet continues to suggest that when we encounter, let's just go up into the main program, when we encounter an enemy, we're always encountering a goblin. Wouldn't it be great if sometimes we could encounter a witch, and sometimes we could encounter a goblin, and sometimes we could encounter a ghost, and maybe we encounter a goblin again, and maybe we encounter a witch again, whatever. But we're encountering different kinds of enemies during gameplay. So when we call the encounter function, why don't we send it some data, a string? Okay? So in our encounter function, we need a parameter. Yes, and that parameter is a string, and I'm just going to call it enemy. This is my temporary variable, which is going to grab the data that I send to the function when I call it. So call the function, send it some data. The function is going to grab that data in its parameter, and now it's going to process that data. So for example, we're going to say enemy appears. So we're using this data in this sentence. Okay? So Jack attacks with strength attack, and, well, it's not goblin anymore, it's enemy. Defense with strength defense. Okay? So we're setting up a way to make our encounter function a little bit more fun to play with. We're giving it some data, and then it can process that data. Now, just before this video finishes, we want to encounter 5 different enemies. We could do it like this, so we don't really need the for loop anymore, right? But if you do want to use the for loop, just something to think about, we could use the value I, which is the for loop's control variable, to help us determine which... So for example, if I is less than 3, we're going to encounter a witch, else we're going to encounter a goblin. Let's just get rid of these. So that's just an idea about how you can use the control variable of your for loop to help you mess around with what's happening in the for loop. Okay? So have a think about it and see if you can code a solution to the parameters problem by using parameters.